You know that feeling. You're up there teaching your heart out, but you're not totally sure if it's all landing. Well, today, we're going to change that. We're going to talk about how to take all that student assessment data, which can sometimes feel kind of overwhelming, and turn it into your absolute secret weapon in the classroom.
So here's our game plan. We'll start by talking about that feeling of teaching in the dark. Then we'll reframe assessment, not as some scary final exam, but as a bridge to student learning. We'll walk through a really practical 4-step cycle, see how it can scale up to an entire district, and then we'll land on the ultimate goal of all of this, getting students to take ownership of their own learning journey. All right, this is the question, isn't it? It's what keeps us up at night. We pour all this energy into our listens, but if we don't have a clear way to see what's sticking and what's not, it can feel like we're just, well, teaching in the dark and kind of hoping for the best. This quote from former Superintendent Ivan Brandon just hits the nail on the head. Our intuition as teachers, that I think, I feel, I saw, that's so valuable. But to really ignite learning, we need to pair that intuition with something solid. We need data. It's that perfect blend of the art and the science of teaching. So how do we flip the switch and turn the lights on? It all starts with a huge mindset shift. We need to stop seeing assessment as a final judgment and start seeing it for what it truly can be, a bridge that connects what we're teaching directly to what our students are learning. And this right here, this is the core of that mindset shift. Educator Jay McTighe said it, and it's a total game changer. Just imagine for a second, what if the main point of every assessment wasn't to get a grade, but just to improve, support, and promote learning? When that becomes the goal, when it's all about advancing learning and not just measuring it, well, everything changes. And the tool we use to build this bridge, it's called formative assessment. Now, don't think big, scary final exams. Think of these as quick check-ins, exit tickets, a quick show of hands, a draft of a paragraph. They're not for the grade book, they're for information. They give us the real-time data we need to adjust on the fly, and the feedback our students need to actually grow. This slide just lays it out so perfectly. On the left, you've got assessment for learning. It's happening during the learning. It's guiding the journey. On the right, that's assessment of learning. That happens at the end to see where you arrived. Both have their place, for sure. But today, we're living on that left side. That's where all the magic happens. Okay, so that's the big idea. But how do you actually do this in your classroom tomorrow? Let's walk through a super simple but really powerful 4-step cycle. This is a framework you can use anytime you look at student work, either by yourself or with your team. The cycle is super straightforward. Observe, analyze, plan, and act. It's all about taking a moment to slow down and really see what's going on with a student's learning. And to make this real, let's follow the story of a first-grade teacher named Sue and her student, Alina. So it all starts with just observing. Sue notices that Alina is having trouble with new words when she reads. Now, the most important part is what she doesn't do. She doesn't immediately jump to a conclusion. She just observes the pattern. She's gathering her data. Okay, next up, analyze. And this is where the power of teamwork comes in. Sue takes her observation to her colleagues, and instead of just one idea, they brainstorm a bunch of possibilities together. Maybe the book is too hard, maybe it's a speed thing. This collaboration is so key because it opens up totally new ways of thinking. And now, they make a plan. Based on all those ideas, they come up with a real strategy. They're going to try an easier book, they're going to teach Elena some specific problem-solving tricks for new words, and this is crucial. They set a date to check back in. This isn't just a vague hope, it's a concrete, actionable plan. And finally, action. Sue puts the plan to work. And here it is. This is the magic of the cycle. She sees Alana getting better with word recognition. Awesome! But because she's observing so closely, she spots a new challenge with phrasing and comprehension. So the data from her action becomes a new observation, and that beautiful cycle of improvement just keeps on turning. Okay, so that cycle is fantastic for one student. But what happens when you zoom out? Can this data-driven thinking work for a whole school district? Let's take a look at how Richmond Public Schools took these exact same ideas and scaled them way up. 51. That's the number of school visits the central office staff did as part of this big initiative. And I want you to know, these weren't surprise gotcha inspections, not at all. This was about everyone, system-wide, committing to looking at the data together. And what's so cool about these visits is that the whole dynamic got flipped on its head. Instead of being talked at, the school teams were in the driver's seat. They presented their data, they identified their goals, and then they asked for the specific help they needed. This one shift changed the whole culture from fear to one of genuine collaboration and support.
Now, let's be real for a second. Making this kind of change isn't always a walk in the park. There are real-world hurdles that get in the way of using data effectively, and it's important to acknowledge them head-on.
So this slide pairs those big barriers with solutions that are actually doable. Feeling crunched for time? Don't try to boil the ocean. Just start small with one student, like Sue did. Don't feel like you have the right training? Get together with a few colleagues you trust and form your own little learning group. The solution is almost always to start small and lean on each other.
So we've talked about the what and the how, but none of it really matters if we don't get to the why. What is the whole point of all this work? Why does it matter so much? Well, it all comes back to the student.
Assessment expert Dylan Williams said it best. The whole point of good feedback is to make itself unnecessary. Just think about that for a second. The ultimate win isn't just that we get better at teaching. It's that our students get so good at learning that they can start to manage it themselves. We're not just teaching them stuff. We're building them into self-sufficient, lifelong learners.
So I want to leave you with this one final thought. Forget about the big district plans for a minute. Just think about your classroom tomorrow. What is one single piece of student work, an exit ticket, a math problem, anything, that you can look at, not to find a grade, but to start a conversation? Because that's it. That's where this whole amazing change begins.